Blind date revealed. CEO meets hidden remarkable woman. You won't believe what happens next. Alex straightened his tie for the third time, the fabric rough against his fingers, a stark reminder of the stress coiling in his gut. The upscale restaurant buzzed with energy, a sea of laughter and clinking glasses that felt both inviting and suffocating. The city, despite its vibrancy, seemed to isolate him further. Day by day, he climbed higher, but with each rung, he felt more estranged from everything that once mattered. He glanced at his reflection in a polished window, the handsome exterior masking a growing silence within. Would dinner with this blind date prove to be another momentary distraction from his loneliness, or a confrontation with the reality he dreaded? Across town, Sarah stood outside the very establishment where fate had decided to shove them together. A rising tide of insecurity washed over her as she observed the polished suits and statuesque figures flickering in and out of the restaurant like a surreal dream. What use were her credentials in the face of such industry giants? Each heartbeat was a reminder of everything she carried: her mother, her siblings, the weight of expectations. She hesitated, the notion of belonging competing violently with the urgency to push forward for their sake. Into this world of privilege she waded, seeking purpose in every conversation she could forge. When they finally met, the initial sparks felt more like flint scraping against steel than the harmonious strike of two hearts. Alex engaged her with stilted talk about tech projections and market trends, as if fear of vulnerability drove him deeper into work jargon. Meanwhile, Sarah's passion burst forth like the cool San Francisco fog, speaking of her profound mission against pollution and her dreams of a cleaner world. As the conversation meandered, tension thickened. Her humility clashed with his success. Questions brewed in Alex's mind. What if this remarkable woman with her raw ambition turned out to be as much of a disruption to his carefully crafted life as a hurricane in a corporate office? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But in the crescendo of their debate, nestled within the lure of camaraderie, came a striking revelation. Sarah unveiled her groundbreaking project aimed directly at decimating industrial pollution, a vision that sent alarm bells ringing in Alex's head. He felt the ground shift beneath him, the realization dawning that her noble pursuits posed a threat to his company's profitable ambitions. Could he genuinely support her without sacrificing his race toward success? He looked at her, her eyes blazing with fierce determination, and felt the suffocating pressure of a moral dilemma weighing on him. As anger bubbled beneath the surface, he could sense the rival CEO entry, a shadowy figure with ulterior motives, a vulture circling a wounded animal, threatening to undermine everything. The stakes were set high, and Alex was caught one foot in a world built on profit, the other skirting the burgeoning affection for the woman challenging everything he stood for. What would it take to break free from the shackles of solitude and ambition? The clock ticked as hopes dangled precariously in the balance. The electricity of possibility hummed between them, a whisper of connection amid the chaos, but the outcome remained agonizingly uncertain. The moment hung suspended in the air, the tension palpable as Alex wrestled internally. Sarah's ambition ignited a spark he hadn't felt in years, a flicker of inspiration entwined with an alarming sense of threat. What would it mean to genuinely champion her cause? The corporate landscape he navigated demanded sacrifice, and the conflict loomed like a growing storm, daring him to confront the depths of his own integrity. As they moved through their conversation, he caught glimpses of the woman beneath the environmentalist's fervor. The passion in her voice revealed layers of tenacity and intelligence that challenged his perception of power. It unnerved him, and yet, it was refreshing. He had lived for numbers, revenue projections, quarterly reports. But tonight was different. His heart raced with something uncharted. Do you really believe it's possible to make lasting change? He questioned, leaning closer, intrigued despite himself. I don't just believe it, I know it. Change is scary, but it's necessary. Look at the world we're creating. But we also have to be strategic, to talk to leaders like you, Sarah replied, her eyes wide and fervent. Strategic? Alex echoed, leaning back in his seat, the term draping itself in his usual comfort. In the world he knew, strategy often leaned towards self-serving calculations, maximizing profit margins at the cost of ethical considerations. Exactly. If we can bridge the gap between business and sustainability, imagine what we could accomplish. We're not enemies, Alex. I want to collaborate, not conflict. There was a spirited resolve in her tone that momentarily pushed back his reluctance. Scattered prints of his company's latest financial report slipped into his mind like dark clouds. He envisioned board meetings filled with buzzwords and red ink, everything Sarah stood against. The notion of working together ignited something within him, but a darker whisper crawled inside. What if this collaboration exposed the vulnerabilities of his empire? Could he risk everything for an uncertain venture grounded not in profit, but in a shared dream? The arrival of his rival served as a jarring reminder of the stakes in play, a hawk with a keen eye on their budding discourse. In the sphere of cutthroat business, compassion often vanished, replaced by survival instincts. Alex's thoughts raced. This was a concrete test of his values. Could he truly embrace Sarah's vision while securing his position at the top? He could feel the pressure mounting, the air turning electric with unresolved feelings and potential betrayal. In that charged moment, he recognized a deeper truth. The constraints of his corporate armor were confining him, distorting his sense of purpose. Yet, choosing a path aligned with Sarah meant risking his reputation. Was it worth the cost? This internal clash demanded resolution, asking him to balance the mask of success he wore against a longing for authenticity. As their eyes locked, he found himself teetering on the edge of a decision that could alter the trajectory of his life. Did he allow fear to dictate his path, or could he dare to unify his aspirations with her urgent mission? The noise of the restaurant faded as Alex's heart raced with possibility, the weight of history pressing on his shoulders. The next right step loomed large, carved from uncertainty but glimmering with potential. "Let us explore how we can make this happen," he murmured, the determination burgeoning within like a flicker of flame. A resolve formed an unprecedented connection in a world fraught with obstacles. But as they began to weave their ideas, a shocking revelation hovered overhead. The rival CEO had been monitoring their every exchange, his looming presence a stark reminder of the challenges ahead. What if their budding collaboration invited sabotage before they even began? In that moment, Alex understood the gravity of their alliance. It was not just a merger of ideals but a declaration of war against the oppressive norms of his industry. And even if that meant facing threats he had never anticipated, the risk of evolving from isolation into partnership beckoned with an undeniable allure. The moment of truth had arrived. Would Alex rise to defend the very ideas that could change everything? The world seemed to blur around Alex as he finalized his resolve. The electric buzz in the restaurant, once a comforting soundtrack, became a mere backdrop to the storm brewing within him. He felt a leveling of clarity cutting through the chaos, mapping out a fractured path to his future. Sarah's vision felt intoxicating. For the first time in years, he was willing to step beyond the confines of his tightly guarded corporate fortress. As he and Sarah began to brainstorm concrete steps, she shared stories of innovative businesses that had successfully shifted towards sustainability. Her enthusiasm was magnetic, and Alex couldn't help but feel the weight of her words pressing against the habitual clank of his financial world. Each example sparked not just admiration but a burgeoning desire to reshape his own legacy. Could he compose an enduring story of triumph that encapsulated both profit and purpose? But glimmers of apprehension quickly infiltrated his thoughts. The rival CEO, known for his ruthless tactics, was an ever-present shadow. What strategies would he deploy to dismantle this alliance before it could even take flight? Alex's grip tightened on his glass, a tempest brewing as he weighed the folly of his ambitions weaponized by fear. Nevertheless, the urge to defy the status quo pressed against him, a split between passion and anxiety manifesting a potent cocktail of motivation. I think we should host a roundtable discussion, bring together key players from both the corporate and environmental worlds, Sarah suggested, her eyes alight with strategic fervor. Alex paused, considering the ramifications. And what if they see this as weakness? What if my board views our outreach as meandering instead of strategic? The last thing I want is for them to think I'm losing my edge. The words tumbled out, revealing the core of his internal struggle. Or maybe they will see the boldness in your decision to lead change. Corporate leadership is evolving, Alex. It's no longer just about revenue. It's about ensuring longevity for our planet, our businesses. Your competitors might be back to the Stone Age if they don't realize that. The thrum of her conviction reverberated through him. What you say is true, he admitted, allowing a fragment of hope to intertwine with the layers of doubt. But how do we prove it? How do we convince others that change isn't just a fleeting trend, but a necessity? As they delved deeper, Alex found himself mentally strategizing, employing every ounce of analytical skill he had honed over years in the boardroom. Through Sarah, he began to view his role differently. He was no longer just a player in the game, but a potential architect of a meaningful shift. A flicker of courage ignited within him, challenging his preconceptions as he recalibrated his vision for the future. Would he allow Sarah's tenacity to reshape the man he had become? The conversation shifted momentarily when laughter erupted nearby, pulling them from their intense brainstorming session. For a few seconds, the brightness of human interaction lit the corners of Alex's mind that had grown dim. But as reality came crashing back, spurred by the awareness of his rival's piercing gaze, Alex took a mental step back. The stakes had never felt higher. The fear of sabotage next to the fear of complacency settled within him, clashing against the exhilarating prospects of accountability and change. He didn't just want to risk everything, he needed to transform himself first. It became clear that this was not just about aligning with Sarah but also evolving as a leader, one prepared to champion a cause larger than himself. The conversation took on a new urgency, propelling them towards strategies for a launch. Every word exchanged was a battle, a tug-of-war between past and future, risk and responsibility. Just then, his phone buzzed insistently against the table, a message from his board. Staring at it, a chill coursed through him. What fresh demands awaited him? As he opened the message, a sinking feeling enveloped him. It appeared they had caught wind of his. Meeting his choices were no longer confined just to him. They were spiraling outward, gaining momentum and foreboding consequences. The moment of truth had transformed into a crossroads. Would he be able to balance the integrity of his newfound ambitions against the looming weight of his corporate obligations? And as the shadows continued to stretch before him, Alex realized that the next chapter in this evolving narrative would demand he confront the past and redefine his future. Would he garner the strength to hold his ground, or would he buckle under corporate pressures threatening to unravel his budding alliance with Sarah? The message blinked at Alex, drawing him into a maelstrom of anxiety. As his mind raced through potential ramifications, the cold light of the screen cast harsh shadows over his resolve. Request for immediate board meeting, the text read simply. The urgency struck like a thunderclap, leaving no room for doubt. They had sensed his shift in focus, and just as he sought to navigate the waters of change, they were ready to clamp down. He could almost feel their collective skepticism wafting through the ether, a palpable force dampening his budding aspirations. The last remnants of his thrill from discussing sustainability with Sarah evaporated, replaced with a desperate urgency to regain control. If the board perceived hesitation or misalignment, it wouldn't just threaten his current initiatives. It could fracture his reputation entirely. I need to take care of this, he spoke, the words heavy with foreboding. Sarah's gaze sharpened, a metaphorical jolt illuminating the remaining path. She leaned closer, her intensity rekindling a flicker of resolve. Look, Alex, they're at a pivotal moment. Challenge their perception before they challenge you, she urged, her tone as fierce as the rallying cries of a general preparing his troops for battle, igniting something within him. What if, instead of defensive strategies, he proposed his sustainability framework up front? Every board member had interests deeper than mere profit. Some would recognize the foresight of future-proofing their business. This was his moment. Right, he muttered, collecting his scattered thoughts. Within the confines of his mind, he began constructing a presentation that would weave his passion into a narrative. It was more than a series of charts and statistics. It had to be a story that struck at the very heart of their collective ambition. But as he stood up, leaving behind the warmth of their strategic cocoon, self-doubt clawed at him ferociously. What if they dismissed it as just another trend? Would they understand the interwoven tapestry of existential threat and corporate survival? The psychological weight of his position felt like a lead-lined vest, binding him to uncertainty. "Remember," Sarah called after him, her voice steady, "this isn't just about you anymore. You're setting a precedent. Be the disruption they'll have to reckon with." With those words echoing in his mind, Alex hurriedly composed an outline on his device, detailing hybrid strategies that balance financial gains with ethical responsibilities. The mere act of crafting it felt like a defiance against his own fears. He needed to dive deeper into the essence of his message, peeling back layers of conventional wisdom to expose the core of transformation. He arrived at the conference room, the air thick with anticipation. Board members sat across a polished table, their expressions resembling a well-rehearsed script of cautious scrutiny. The usual pleasantries exchanged, Alex felt a cacophony of nerves bubbling inside him. Yet buried beneath the tumult was a glimmer of worldly knowledge, something he had uncannily cultivated in his late career. As he began his presentation, he fought the instinct to cave to their apprehensions. Each point he articulated was guided by conviction, not merely shrouded in financial data but driven by an embracing vision that articulated sustainability as a wealth-generating pathway. He watched expressions changing gradually from skepticism to curiosity, and finally, intrigue. Underneath their veneer of critical detachment, perhaps some were yearning for a beacon of innovation, something to validate their existence beyond quarterly earnings. However, he couldn't ignore the watchful eye of the rival CEO lurking in the outer hall, always ready with counter-narrative ammunition. His presence loomed large, a constant reminder of the stakes involved. Drawing strength from Sarah's earlier encouragement, Alex held firm. There lay the power of connection. He was no longer Tony Stark versus the world but a devoted architect of meaningful change. As he concluded, he left an open floor for questions. The adrenaline coursing through him highlighted every glance exchanged among board members. Were they processing his message? Or would the weight of the opportunity slip through his fingers? Just when he sensed a breakthrough, the doors swung open. The rival CEO strolled in, a calculated smirk etched across his face. In that moment, the room stilled, all eyes on the unexpected intrusion. Alex's heart raced, realizing that the stakes had become even more personal. In that frozen instant, confrontation loomed ahead, and the impending clash was unmistakable. Would he be able to stand his ground against this formidable opposition, or would he succumb to fear and destabilizing rival tactics? The story was far from over. The tension in the room thickened as the rival CEO sauntered in, his presence a stark disruption to Alex's carefully laid plans. The questioning glances exchanged among board members heightened the pressure on Alex, making the air feel electric. He couldn't allow himself to appear ruffled. He had worked too hard to let this moment dissolve into chaos. "Ah, Alex," the rival CEO said, his voice smirking with insincerity. "I trust you're not boring the board with another one of those sustainability pitches? You know how unprofitable those can be, right?" Alex's pulse quickened, but the shot wasn't just an attack on his ideas. It was a challenge to his authority, and it ignited a primal instinct to defend his territory. "Actually, I was just explaining how sustainability can drive profitability," he countered, but the doubt seeped through his tone. He could sense the board's attention swinging between the two men, questioning who possessed the stronger vision. The rival CEO leaned casually against the door frame, as if establishing dominance through body language. "I admire your fervor, but this isn't a college debate club. How do you plan to convince this board to invest in a future that's not guaranteed?" He raised an eyebrow, as a few board members shifted uneasily. Alex mentally reeled from the dismissal. Was he truly wasting their time? The flicker of uncertainty threatened to drown his confidence. He grasped for his notes, fingers trembling slightly as he remembered Sarah's advice. He had to rise above this condescending banter, shift the narrative back to his vision. Actually, I believe the future is not just a gamble. It's an opportunity to lead. By aligning our long-term strategies with sustainable practices, we create a competitive edge that meets not just market demands but ethical obligations. The CEO scoffed, cutting him off with a wave of his hand. Ethical obligations? That's always a handy buzzword. But at the end of the day, it's about numbers, isn't it? The market will never reward idealism. He sought to sway the board with the familiar comfort of profitability, igniting doubt once more among Alex's defenders. But amidst the uncertainty, an unexpected sense of clarity flickered in Alex's mind. Driven by a primal swirl of anger and motivation, he turned the tide in his favor. It's about balance, really. We are at a crossroads. The businesses that do not evolve to meet the demands of conscious consumers will inevitably fall behind. Just look at the trends in the millennial demographic, the driving force in our economy. They're not buying products, they are buying values. His words came off with assertive energy, rising against the rival's disdain. He saw nods of understanding around the table, small victories in a larger battle. However, Alex felt the rear guard still weak. There were board members who favored the comfort of traditional approaches, worried about the risks inherent in change. He needed to craft a more compelling case. What if, he continued, desperation fueling each word, we introduced a model that not only serves today's consumers but also prepares us for a future that's increasingly focused on social responsibility. Case studies show companies adopting sustainable practices not only see a boost in their public image, but also enjoy long-term profitability as pioneers. Each word became a deliberate strike, aimed at evaporating conformity in the room. But as he spoke, the rival CEO absorbed the tension, a wolf waiting to pounce. And while you're off chasing ideals, don't forget there's a reality out there. It's not just about the consumers, it's our competitors too. What happens when the resources get stretched thin? His skepticism dripped with condescension, challenging the board to reject innovation for fear of instability. Sweat trickled down Alex's brow. The volley was relentless, and he sensed their collective pivot toward his rival. He was standing on the precipice, teetering between a fundamental shift in direction or falling back into obscurity. Rethinking his strategy, he rummaged through his memory. For powerful examples he could invoke companies that had turned their fortunes around through bold moves towards sustainability. He needed their stories, vivid and relatable, to pull the board into his narrative. But just as he began to piece together a new argument, a ringing phone shattered the tense atmosphere. Every eye shifted back to the door, where a young intern hovered, hesitant yet eager. The board's curiosity shifted again, but Alex sensed the urgency behind the interruption. You might want to take this, the intern stammered, glancing at Alex. It's about the project funding, urgent. An unexpected wave of frustration washed over him. This interruption could be a game-changer or a complete derailment. Would he have the presence of mind to turn this chaotic event into an opportunity? As he faced the board, their expressions poised between judgment and support, Alex's determination crystallized. The moment of decision loomed before him, ripe with potential recalibration. He could use the distraction to regroup his thoughts or boldly reach into the unknown depths of his pitch. In that split second, Alex grasped the crossroads in which he stood, the questions echoing wildly in his mind. Would he take the opportunity to cut through the noise, or would he allow the momentum to slip away? The intern's presence was electrifying, a thrust of unexpected energy that momentarily shook the foundation of the intense confrontation. Alex's mind raced, weighing the implications of this untimely interruption. Should he dismiss the call and focus on the pitch, or would a quick diversion provide him the breathing space he desperately needed to gather his thoughts? In that fleeting moment, clarity struck. He recognized that this call, though seemingly a distraction, could serve as a powerful pivot. If he played it right, he could demonstrate decisiveness and adaptability, two critical traits that would resonate with the board. Thank you for bringing this, but please hold on for just one moment, he said to the intern, turning slightly back to the board, feeling a surge of assertiveness wash over him. Let's take a brief recess, a chance for discussion. I promise to bring you back into the heart of this matter shortly. He could see a mixture of surprise and intrigue on the faces around the table. Alex seized the opportunity, stepping away from his notes, casting aside the insecurities that had loomed large just moments ago. He motioned for the intern to follow him to a quieter corner of the room. The intern appeared nervous, clutching the smartphone tightly in her hand. I didn't mean to interrupt, sir, but this is urgent. It's about the funding for the Green Initiative project. The investors have a few last-minute conditions. Alex nodded, eyeing the project funding update. He had anticipated hurdles, but not this. He had to stay agile. Do they require more metrics? I can pivot the discussion to reflect our progress accurately. Did they mention which aspects concerned them? The intern nodded, visibly gaining confidence. They're worried about the projected timeline for returns and want assurance that we can overcome supply chain challenges for sustainable materials. Alex took a deep breath, feeling intensity shift within him. This wasn't just about defending his sustainability pitch. It was a convergence of high stakes, a defining moment where he could turn skepticism into confidence. Let us outline a revised timeline together. We'll present this chance as not just a challenge, but a strategic response to market demands. As they frantically adjusted the proposal on his laptop, he swept a hand through his hair, bringing the formative thoughts into focus. Here was an opportunity to showcase his leadership and problem-solving skills in real time. His heart pounded, and with it, he felt the adrenaline rush of responsibility and purpose. I think we can utilize our case studies to show the investors that history is on our side. His voice steadied as ideas flowed. If we demonstrate how similar companies overcame initial pushback and established a solid, trustworthy foundation that will resonate with their fears. The intern moved quickly, typing as he spoke. It felt exhilarating to connect with her, understanding the process of collaboration in a world cluttered by individualism. They worked side by side, crafting a narrative that would reinforce strength in their approach rather than capitulate to fears. Moments later, he looked at her with fervor. This isn't just about us anymore. It's about showing the board that we aren't just dreaming of sustainable business practices, we're executing them, adapting to challenges, and earning trust. Returning to the boardroom felt like stepping into the arena once again, but this time, he carried the strength of renewed purpose. The rival CO's smirk faded as he noticed the shift in Alex's demeanor. The room now sensed the momentum had shifted back into Alex's control, as he recast the narrative. With the refreshed energy circulating, Alex stood at the forefront. Thank you for your patience, he began, the confidence layering on with each word. Let us present our recent adjustments, and show our commitment to not only recover gross losses but to take this opportunity as a stepping stone towards uncharted success. Yet as his pitch unfolded, the rival CO nestled back into a relaxed position, fingers steepled, an expression of bemusement plastered onto his face. Alex had felt victory inch closer, but his gaze flickered back to the intern, who now stood poised with potential. There was an unexpected synergy, a thread of connection that sparked intrigue within him. But just as Alex was about to delve deeper into their shared vision and continue rallying the board, another unanticipated signal buzzed to life, a different phone call echoing throughout the room. He hesitated, glancing at the intern, but this time sensing that the stakes might shift in ways he couldn't foresee. The moment of truth was drawing near, teetering precariously on him. Would he hold his ground and weather this storm? Or would this unsolicited interruption shatter everything he just rebuilt? The conflict surged, leaving Alex to wrestle with the unknown consequences looming just beyond the horizon. The ringing of the phone sliced through the ambience like a sharp blade. Alex's heart raced as he squinted at the screen, unwilling to break the tension that had suddenly formed in the room. It was an unfamiliar number, but a part of him almost hoped it was nothing important. Yet, another part understood that sometimes, the unknown brings unexpected opportunities. He took a moment, assessing the board members around him. Some eagerly leaned in, while others exchanged glances that suggested irritation. Was there a way to reclaim the narrative again? He wasn't sure, but he couldn't afford to display hesitation. With a firm grip on his composure, he held his breath as he silenced the phone. He had made his choice. The stakes were too high to let distractions derail his momentum. As he turned his focus back to the presentation, the air crackled with anticipation. Let us harness this moment, reconnect with our vision, he said, channeling calmness to weave resilience into his pitch. Our project isn't merely about eco-friendly practices, it's a roadmap for sustainable corporate success. It's time to reframe our perspective. A sense of unity began to build within the room as he articulated the adjustments made with his intern. Among the gathered executives, it was clear many hadn't fully grasped the depth of the project, something he was now keen to change. He saw their eyes widening, and he pushed forward with renewed vigor, drawing on the collaborative aspect that had energized him just moments earlier. And as we adapt our plans, let us not forget to prepare for human elements in our strategy, he continued, contemplating the relationship he had with the intern just a short while ago. In a world focused so heavily on profit margins, we risk losing sight of the people behind the projects. When we inspire our teams and investors with authenticity, we can turn skepticism into trust. The board responded, nodding slightly, but Alex sensed he needed a bolder approach to captivate them completely. Let us envision a future, he urged, layering his voice with conviction. Imagine a company where our advancements are sustainability-driven not just because it's a trend, but because change begins with us. He noticed the rival CEO eyeing him again, a hint of wariness breaking through the smirk. Alex knew this was no longer just a presentation. It was a confrontation of ideologies, old versus new, risk versus safety. It was a test of character. But as he engaged them further, an internal pang of doubt flickered at the back of his mind. What if he pushed too hard? What if they dismissed his appeal as naive ambition? He wrestled with the fear of rejection. Then, clarity emerged once more, a fleeting thought of that original phone call, of the intern's potential, of everything that had led him here. In that whirlwind of emotions, he experienced an epiphany. He was not here to fight alone. He had allies now, and the intern embodied that energy of possibility. I urge you, he said, reaching out. Let us turn this risk into an opportunity to set a precedent not just for our firm, but for the industry as a whole. Together, we can become the face of sustainable innovation. The applause began as the full weight of his words sunk in, and the hesitation in the room transformed into a vibrant energy. He sensed a shift, as if his vision was coalescing into something larger than himself. Just then, in the midst of this climax, the rival CEO cleared his throat, a sinister glint appearing in his eyes as he prepared to speak. Do you really think you're in a position to dictate what constitutes innovation? He asked, his tone dripping with condescension. Isn't that just pretty words? Suddenly, all eyes turned back to Alex. The room felt suffocating, the air thick with apprehension. It was time for him to navigate this dangerous terrain, to assert his place in the ongoing battle for the future. Would he cower or engage? As the silence pressed on, Alex felt an indescribable urge welling within him. He could either step back into the safety of vague generalities or dive headfirst into an unguarded, fierce dialogue. The moment had arrived, his chance to rip away pretense and lay bare the truth of his vision. But within that rising tension, he had to wonder, was he truly prepared for what lay ahead? Alex took a deep breath, steadying himself against the tide of uncertainty that swelled within him. He had come too far to allow a single remark to rattle his resolve. Instead of retreating into the shadows of self-doubt, he welcomed the challenge presented by the rival CEO's taunt. It was a matter of proving not just the validity of his ideas, but his very identity as a leader. Words only hold weight when coupled with action, he replied, projecting an assurance he scarcely felt. We have the opportunity to redefine what innovation means, to evolve beyond mere trends and truly embrace sustainability as a pillar of our culture. Each word he spoke seemed to spark a flicker of warmth in the colder corners of the room, and he felt a surge of adrenaline as the challenge laid out before him transformed into a battle cry. Pausing for a moment to gauge the reactions, he noticed a couple of board members leaning forward, intrigued. Others still held the remnants of skepticism in their furrowed brows, which drove him further. The stakes were laid bare. This was a moment to crystallize his vision, to amplify the stakes beyond just corporate success. It was about leaving a legacy that could ignite change. Yet there was still the underlying truth that loomed over him. The shadows of doubt were whispering insidiously. Despite the applause, he felt the weight of their expectations anchoring him, faintly familiar, a sensation he had battled in his early years in the corporate world, wrestling with feelings of inadequacy and the desire to conform to established norms. What do you plan to do differently? The rival CEO pressed, eyes narrowing as if he sensed Alex's internal conflict. You'll find that overcoming the status quo is far more difficult than just voicing it. Then let us explore that, Alex countered, replacing defensiveness with curiosity. What if we lead that change? Our competitors may rely on history, but we have the chance to set the agenda for the future. Let us not shy away from what disrupts complacency. Let us embrace it. The room's air shifted as those around him began to engage in quiet conversations, weighing his words against the rival's challenge. He could see the intern, now transformed to a vital element of his strategy, sitting quietly to the side, her expression suffused with the determination he felt was mirrored in her eyes. It hit him then. Their partnership was not just advantageous but also symbolic, a convergence of fresh perspectives that could catalyze innovation. He needed to leverage this powerful connection for the greater good. Integration means collaboration, he continued, and that's where we thrive. We can harness not just the resources at our disposal, but the very spirit of those who make this company a living, breathing entity. His voice thundered through the room, shattering the stale atmosphere. He didn't just want to lead, he wanted to co-create with every individual in that room, urging them to contribute their visions. The board's expressions began to soften. He desperately sought enlightenment within them, hoping they'd see what he saw, a landscape filled with potential rather than just obstacles. Yet, the rival CEO wasn't finished. But sincerity in business is often misperceived, he grinned, an edge of condescension still evident. What if your vision leads to failure? Have you prepared for that? A challenge founded on fear. This was the true test. Alex felt an internal shift, a realization crystallizing that his resolve could not be dictated by the fears of others. Failure can be the mother of innovation as long as we learn and grow from it. Wouldn't it be more dangerous to avoid taking risks altogether? He sensed a slight ripple of recognition from some board members. They leaned in closer, perhaps beginning to see the wisdom in his position. Let us not entrench ourselves in defeatism. Instead, we owe it to ourselves and to those we seek to serve to take bold strides forward. The room shifted, a tide of energy building, each member breaking away from the paralysis of fear, but a flicker of unresolved anxiety tugged at him. Was this all just a prelude to the real clash? As he stood poised for victory, he recognized that merely winning this battle would not be enough. He had to prepare for the inevitable retaliation from the rival and the corporate entities that thrived on maintaining the old ways. The stakes were mounting. Turning to the remaining attendees, Alex felt a final surge of determination. Together, let us reshape this atmosphere of doubt. We are here not to follow but to lead. At that moment, he felt the weight of possibilities pinning him down. The challenge ahead was colossal, yet a small part of him relished the impending confrontation. How far could he push this narrative? The silence that followed his words was charged, and it became clear that the next move would define his boundaries and his vision. What lay ahead was impossible to predict, but one thing weighed heavily on him: how much of himself could he risk? How much more could he push for what he believed in? And from the back of the room, the air seemed to ripple with a promise or perhaps a warning that soon, he would have to confront not only the rival but also himself. Alex stepped out of the conference room, the heavy door closing behind him with a resounding thud that echoed his mixed emotions. His heart still raced, adrenaline coursing through him as he wrestled with the vestiges of anxiety that bubbled beneath the surface. He had stood his ground remarkably well, but the heat of the moment had not entirely drowned out the whispers of doubt. In the corridor, he leaned against the cool marble wall, eyes half closed, inhaling deeply to steady his racing thoughts. The competing vision of the rival CEO lingered vividly in his mind, like a specter urging him to falter. Yet something burned within him, a spark ignited from that confrontation, feeding his resolve to affirm his leadership potential. He would tunnel through skepticism, even while grappling with the questions surrounding his own authority. His phone buzzed in his pocket, jolting him back to the present. It was a message from the intern, Sarah, whom he had noticed observing the interaction closely. "Can we talk?" it read. He felt a wave of anticipation. If he was to challenge the status quo, collaboration with fresh minds like hers might hold the key. Finding a quiet corner in the lobby, he typed a quick response, and within minutes, Sarah joined him, her enthusiasm palpable. "That was intense," she said, her eyes wide, reflecting a mixture of excitement and concern. "Your vision felt powerful, but do you think they'll buy it?" Her directness invigorated him. "It's not just about buying into the idea, Sarah. It's about believing in the promise of what we can achieve together. We need to show them that disruption doesn't mean danger, it means growth." "Exactly. But we also have to prepare for backlash. The rival isn't going to take this lying down. We need strategies more than just talk," she countered, her analytical tone sparking an immediate mental buzz within Alex. "Right, we'll refine our proposals and prepare case studies that showcase successful implementations of sustainable practices. Let us gather data, crazy ideas, anything that stands out." The wheels in Alex's mind began to turn rapidly. He could see how their strengths could align. As they started brainstorming, it became increasingly apparent that his interaction with the board lingered on the periphery of grander developments. There was an undeniable synergy between him and Sarah. She brought her youth-infused creativity while he tempered it with learned pragmatism. This could be the foundation for the innovative initiatives he envisaged. A flurry of ideas surfaced between them: technology integration, community partnerships, and how to impact both business and environment positively. Yet amidst this fervent exchange, Alex was confronted with another layer of self-reflection. Was he truly prepared to embrace this new landscape? To lead alongside someone with a fresh approach? "I have to admit," Alex confessed in a quieter moment, "I still feel tethered to traditional methods much of the time." "Then let us break those chains together," Sarah said gently, a confident smile gracing her lips. Her belief in the collaboration lit something inside him, a flicker of potential that felt tangible. As the conversation progressed, an idea dawned. They could organize a workshop, inviting board members and employees to collaborate on solutions together. Having them contribute in a shared space could chip away at the long-held perceptions of hierarchy and provide insight into diverse, innovative thinking. But fear of how it would be received loomed quietly. What if it was dismissed as too idealistic? Taking a deep breath, he looked into Sarah's eyes, feeling a rush of courage washing over him. This was not merely a personal milestone anymore, but a shared journey they would embark on. Let us propose this workshop, give them the chance to see firsthand what innovation and sustainability can mean for all of us. However, as they stepped back into the formalities of the office, a shadow flickered in the periphery of his thoughts. How would the veteran board members react to these new ideas? Would they embrace the disruption or resist, roused by fear of change? In that instant, he knew the coming days would not just test new initiatives but also challenge the very core of his confidence and the transformative nature of his leadership. The stage was set for confrontation not only against the rival CEO, but against the ingrained systems of belief within his own company. The moment was drawing near. How hard would he need to fight to see it through? The days that followed were a whirlwind of activity and introspection for Alex. He rallied his internal teams, weaving Sarah's insights into a cohesive vision that blurred the lines between environmental stewardship and commercial viability. Each strategy session burgeoned with energy, the tension between his past and future stretched taut, ripe with promise. He could feel a shift and evolution taking root within him. Finally, the day of the proposed workshop arrived. The conference room buzzed with anticipation as diverse groups of employees, senior executives, and stakeholders settled in, ready to explore a landscape they had previously only glimpsed from afar. Alex, infused with purpose, stood at the front, his heart racing, every breath punctuated with the weight of responsibility. He welcomed everyone warmly, his eyes scanning the sea of faces, some eager, others skeptical. "Today," he began, is not merely about presenting ideas but about fostering collaboration and opportunity to leverage creativity to drive transformative change. As he spoke, he recalled his initial meeting with Sarah, the hesitant thrill pulsing through him when he first felt that spark of connection. That same thrill now coursed through his veins, igniting a sense of possibility within the assembled crowd. With each point he made about the urgency of adopting sustainable practices, he watched reactions shift, tables turning as minds opened. The workshop kicked off with group discussions. Each breakout session was a laboratory for innovation, where ideas poured forth in a torrent. Alex observed the dynamic interplay, his colleagues building off one another's thoughts, intermingling different perspectives. In that environment, he began to recognize the paramount truth: true leadership lies not in dictating orders but in weaving a network of collaboration that unlocks talent and creativity. Amid the hubbub, Sarah caught his eye, her smile conveying reverberations of shared triumph. She embodied the very essence of the change he sought. Her unwavering belief in the power of unity sent ripples through the room, invigorating minds that had long been shrouded in corporate conservatism. Together, they had transcended mere aspirations, forging an alliance capable of breaking down barriers that previously hindered progress. As the workshop concluded, Alex stood amazed at the palpable energy in the room. Ideas flowed like electricity, igniting passion within each participant. He sensed that this was more than just an exercise. It was a revolution, a commitment from his team to pursue a new path. Their collective willingness to act, forged in the crucible of collaboration, became the blueprint for their future. After the event, as he debriefed with Sarah, he felt a solid confidence settle in. "This is just the beginning," she remarked, her voice laced with enthusiasm. "We've laid the groundwork, but now we need to ensure the momentum continues. We have to present our findings to the board with conviction." Alex smiled, recognizing her heart and zeal in every word she spoke. "Let us refine our message, hone in on our best ideas. We need to showcase not just potential but tangible pathways forward." As they embraced that challenge, he realized he had conquered his internal struggles. The doubts that once guided his actions surrendered to a newfound clarity of purpose. His aspirations were no longer shackled by fear of failure or sidetracked by corporate politics. They were elevated by an authentic drive to make a difference, not just for his company but for the greater good. The day of the board presentation arrived, a palpable blend of anxiety and exhilaration filling the air, a reminder of the stakes that lay ahead. Standing before his peers, Alex felt emboldened, the collaborative spirit of the workshop echoing in his heart. This was no longer about him. It was about the vision they had crafted together. He began with the stories of their workshop. That spontaneous flourishing of ideas encapsulated the very essence of innovation they sought. Bringing in metrics, case studies, and compelling narratives, he laid out how integrating sustainable practices into their business model could secure not just profits, but also legacy. He watched as perspectives shifted, slowly warming to the radical shifts that he and Sarah championed. As questions arose from the board, Alex responded not with defensive answers but with a boldness that felt foreign yet exhilarating. He encouraged dialogue, welcoming skepticism and framing it as a necessary part of growth. The atmosphere in the room shifted, an unspoken understanding developing. This was not just another presentation, but a vibrant, nuanced conversation that had the potential to reshape their future. By the time Alex concluded, he stood on the precipice of something remarkable. As applause bubbled around him, a singular wave of affirmation, he was aware of a profound truth. The journey he had embarked upon was not solely about gaining acceptance from others, but about affirming his own commitment to meaningful leadership. In the coming weeks, as the board endorsed their new initiatives, Alex embraced newfound recognition, his resilience rewarded by the realization of a vision once muddled by fear. Sarah's presence beside him became a powerful emblem of collaboration and innovation, born of shared passion and mutual respect. As he reflected, Alex felt deep satisfaction coursing through him. The isolation that had once threatened to engulf him evaporated in the light of collective achievement. He had not only evolved within his professional sphere but had grown as a person. Once driven solely by ambition, he now embraced a broader responsibility tied to the world around him. It was striking to see how far he had come, but the journey was far from over. He understood that true leadership would require ongoing collaboration, innovation, and open dialogue, keeping the spirit of change alight. In that moment, Alex recognized he had not merely succeeded, he had become the architect of a new paradigm, blending purpose with progress in a way that launched him not just into the heights of corporate success, but into the heart of meaningful change. You need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It truly makes a difference. Comment among your reactions and theories about this ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share this transformative narrative.